Welcome back to the Just As I Am podcast. It's your favorite friend, Nicole. And on this episode, we are going to do a recap of camp. We're going to be talking about Centrikid. So it has officially been a week since we have returned from camp, and within those 5 days that we were gone, so much happened. So much went on. We had 11 kids go with us. Okay, 4 boys, and that was such a lie. 4 girls, 7 boys. There we go. That's the truth. 4 girls, 7 boys, 4 adults. And we left on Saturday morning and we returned Wednesday night or late afternoon. We'll say late afternoon. We didn't get back. We got back in pretty good time. But this year's theme for camp was higher, living our calling. And, there were verses for every day and different themes within the theme for every day. But the main focus verse was Mark 12, 30, and 31. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is, love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other command greater than these. So, we go to camp at this place called Timber Creek in Mississippi. And when people ask where that is, I usually kindly, politely tell them it's in the middle of nowhere, Mississippi. That is in fact where we go for camp. And it's not quite in the boonies, but I mean, it's a good distance from big civilization. And when I mean big, I mean like small town civilization. It's not like your big capital cities or anything. It's not Nashville or like, I don't know, Sacramento, Atlanta. It's not like that. And so we travel down there. It takes about 5 or so hours. So we left about 8:15. We stopped in Starkville, got us, the holy lunch of Chick-fil-A, and then we continued on, and we made it about 2:20. Anyways, we made it sometime after, between 2 and 3. And I drove and followed the church van, and so we dropped all the kids off, kicked them out. They were going to play games and stuff with them, dropped off our director, our head honcho, Mama Gwen, to go, check us in and get all the information and the goods and everything. And then we went and we were in the exact same cabin that we were in last year. And so we went and we unpacked everything on the porch, and then we went and parked the cars, and then we met them back up at the cafeteria, and we got our special shirts for this year, and then we took a group photo, and then the kids basically had free time until dinner. So we all went, got settled in, had dinner, and then they had a little bit of free time, and then we went and we had our first worship, I can't wait mixture for the week, and the kids were definitely pumped. They were excited. They were ready to roll. But like I said, every day had a special theme within the theme. And so, like, the mother is the main theme, and then all of her little children are the sub-themes, or whatever you want to call it. And higher was the overall theme, but day 1 was higher command. Day 2 was higher love. Day Day 3 was higher life. Day 4, higher purpose. And day 5, higher mission. And not only do the kids, go and learn, but the adults do as well. So what would happen is we would eat breakfast. We would have when I went to camp, I feel like we called it quiet time, but now they call it time alone with God. Same thing. And after that, we would have just a little bit of time, and then we would go to I Can't Wait, which is like the morning kickoff worship. We sing, there's music, there's silly videos, there's a mini message about, what the day is going to be like, what they're going to learn, and Bible study, and then they go. Ours went to rec first, but they go to rec or Bible study, and then they switch. And then after they switch, they have a few minutes, and then it's lunchtime. Well, after lunchtime, they've got a good bit, and then they go to tracks. So they get to pick which tracks they would like. I think they get to pick 4, and then out of those 4 that they picked, 2 were selected for them. So we had a lot of H2O yeah people, we had some weird science people, we had some arts and crafts people, we had flag football, basketball. I mean, they have all kinds of stuff for the kids to do. And the kids really love it, especially, they just love activities and getting hands-on and all that. Doing fun things, right? I mean, who doesn't enjoy a fun thing? And they would go do that. And that probably took up the majority of the day. And then we would come back together, and then we would have hang time. So during this time, they could go to the camp store. They could go get a snow cone from the snow cone shack. They could go play gaga ball to their heart's content. They could play tetherball, volleyball. This camp has a large amount of things for anyone, especially for the kids. And they also have a lake, and so the kids could go canoeing, which was one of their favorite things, except for our ones that were a little more afraid of the water, which they wore life jackets and everything. But with boys comes risky business. Does that make sense? And so some of ours were afraid from previous experiences that one of the boys might rock the boat and knock them over. Anyways, it did not happen, and even if it did, like I said, life jackets, safety precautions, they were not allowed to go down there without an adult. We got this. So after hangout time would be dinner, and then, actually, I missed one. We would have Rex Bible study, lunch, hang out, and then we would have dinner, and then we would go to worship, which is the more calm atmosphere, good music, but then this is where the pastor would really come out and discuss the message, and and he was really good. I know the kids liked him a lot. He explained it very well for the kids to understand. One of the Bible stories they talked about was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We talked about Jesus getting tempted. We discussed basically kindness. He used, for one example of something, he used like these really large dominoes, and he was talking about what if this person is being ugly? Well, then the person that they're ugly to, they decide to be ugly, and so it just continues. And he used that with knocking the dominoes down. So every person who decided to do that just kept spreading it, basically. And he said, you can be the person to stop it. And he held a domino, or he started to knock them over, and then he grabbed one. And so only the ones that had already fallen fell, and the other ones were unaffected. We were taught to love one another with, just like our verse. The verse is incorporated in everything. The theme song, the lessons, love. And with all your heart, mind, soul, body, strength, all that. And we also talked about the fruits of the Spirit and how if you don't have your fruits, it's going to be hard to accomplish anything. But when you do have your fruits, you can do so much. And I really enjoyed it. They really enjoyed it. The kids definitely, you know these kids really well. And then you have a sleepover with them. And you get to, I don't know if you get to know them better or you just get driven a little crazy. I don't know. But the first night, even just on the way there, my goodness, the first night, because lights out is at 10, okay? And ever since Colorado ruined my bedtime, I have not fixed it. And so this did not help whatsoever. So I know you're probably like, then why were you, why did it bother you? Anyways, but so when lights out, that's 10 o'clock, it's bedtime for the whole camp, not just for, us in particular. And we had only, let's see, we were down 2 children because one of them had some kind of program, and so they were dropped off the next morning. So the first night, we only had 3 little girls, and then we had all the boys minus, the one girl's brother, because, one from each. So that made complete sense, right? Well, one of ours was just completely distraught. She was worried about mom. She wanted to go home. She just kept crying. And I was like, we're not doing that again. We're going to bed promptly because y'all are tired. You want to go to sleep. Whether you really want to, your body is tired. In your mind, you're like, I could use some sleep, regardless of how long you want to stay up. And so the next night, I was just talking with her, getting her mind anywhere but where it was last night when she was just distraught to a T. And we just talked about our day, and then we all talked about our day, and talked about our favorite things and what we're excited about and what we learned and just all the things. And that really helped. And so I told the girls, and I did tell the boys, but I didn't have too much control over them because I wasn't staying in their part of the cabin with them, or else I would have, you better believe it. But I told the girls and the boys, I said, look, you, at 10 o'clock, your body is going to be ready and in that bed. I said, you do not have to go to sleep, but your body is going to be in that bed ready to go to sleep. I said, you can rest, you can talk, you can whatever, but your body is going to be in that bed at 10 o'clock. We are turning the lights out. And ever since then, every night, some nights a little bit after, because just because they're little girls doesn't mean that they don't take showers for forever. One of them, she serenaded us in the shower every time, and honestly, it was hilarious. But I was like, come on, get out, hurry up, But we would have our nightly talks and discussions, and then the kids would be asleep by like 10:30, and I was like, yeah, I knew it. The boys, on the other hand, one thing about our cabin is both of our doors were squeaky. They really needed some WD-40, and I could hear that door squeaking a lot throughout the night. And sometimes I just thought to myself, you should just go in there and get them boys to bed. But anyways, I digress. Girls certainly can act like little boys too. I mean, passing gas and giggling, and I don't know how we got here. One of them did it, and the other one said, I think that went all the way up to her nostrils. Girls are wild. And I was telling Mama Gwen, I was like, I really need my mama to humble me, because this is crazy. Like, was I like this when I was their age? This is wild. Because Mama Gwen kept telling us that my age group was completely different than this age group. She's like, you kept your stuff together. Literally, it was just like an explosion. It was like they unzipped their suitcase and everything just went every direction. And it stayed like that all week. And parents are still trying to go through stuff and get stuff sorted and return things that aren't theirs and exchange them. Wild things. But I really enjoyed OMC also. It was incredibly hot, okay? And I kept talking about OMC. When I went to camp, we always went Monday through Friday. But now they do camp, like I said, Saturday through Wednesday. And so my schedule was already completely just crazy. And I kept telling, when I would talk about it, I'd be like, we'll do that Thursday, or we can get it done Thursday, whatever. And they would just look at me like I was crazy. And they were like, it's on Tuesday. And I was like, well, anyways, you know what I'm talking about. And so, but OMC was on a Tuesday, last full day of camp, right? And as the adults, as the orange team, whoop whoop, we can either volunteer for specific positions at OMC, or we can just be in the chaos helping. And I try to stay, if you know anything about OMC, OMC stands for Organized Mass Chaos. And that is exactly what it is. And within the chaos, let me say this first. Within the chaos, there is shaving cream, there is toothpaste, there are water balloons, there is pool noodles, hula hoops, children running everywhere, full speed, doing the most craziest things, okay? Ringing up the cowbells, that was one thing. I had a cowbell, and children kept asking to borrow it. And so I try to pick the safest place. Last year, I did the water station. That's a pretty safe place. This year, which is the second time I've done it, this year I did the passing out of the task cards. And that is pretty safe. I personally did not get victimized. The only reason I got shaving cream on me was because when I was letting one of the kids borrow my cowbell to do their task. But we have, age groups are divided up by colors. So we have the yellow team, which is first and second, right? First and second, third, fourth, yes. Okay, no. Second and third grade is yellow. Second and third grade is yellow. Fourth grade is green. Fifth grade is blue. And sixth grade is red. But the best team is the orange team, because that's what the adults are. Anyways, I digress. So what they have to do is they have their own color flags. Okay, that's where their team is stationed. Their team is stationed with the color of their team bucket. So like blue team has a huge blue bucket, yellow a huge yellow bucket. Each flag is numbered that passes out task cards, and they have to get a task card, read the task card, complete the task, turn it in to their color bucket, their team bucket, go to the next flag number that it says, and get another task card. And some of the rules are you cannot say no. So if somebody asks you to help, you have to help them. These children were covered in shaving cream head to toe. I love OMC, but I love being safe. when I was their age and I did OMC, I loved it, but I hated it because one time I got a task where I had to brush my teeth with my finger and toothpaste. Okay, I do not like anything in my mouth other than a toothbrush and something to eat with. So like a fork, but with food. I don't like things in my mouth. And so to have my hand with toothpaste and be brushing my teeth, I hated it. I hated it. And so, but I mean, these kids, and they go 90 to nothing. And sometimes I had to help the smaller ones read. But a lot of the time, the kids kept putting their, because I had a basket with task cards, but I would be passing them out. And so the kids, they'd get a task card, or they'd throw their task card in my basket and then get one from my hand. And I was like, no. And I'd give them another one and I'd say, go put that in your team bucket. And they'd look at me like I had 3 heads. But I was like, no, put your finished task card in your team bucket. And I'd try to tell them what color bucket, to go put it in. But yellow team they got the prize for the most spirit and pep and cheer. And then blue team won the whole thing. Which was good because we always feel like red team wins. But we want everybody to win. We just want them to have fun, really, and enjoy it and not get hurt. That's our main priority. But everything that they do at camp has a biblical base. It has a biblical reasoning behind it. And that's one thing that I love. I love that they'll do a game and then they'll all take a knee, and then their coach, their camp counselor, will bring out their Bible and read something and tie it into that game and how that game worked. But these kids, and not just our group, but as a whole, like to see the kids singing and worshiping with their hands raised, and to want to read the scripture, to want to participate, to want to be there, and to want to listen and want to live, their lives the way Christ has designed us, it's such a good calming feeling, I guess, to know that. We also, during camp, they do missions. And so they do it through the IMB. And this year, really like during VBS, this year was, they had 2 places. They do one within our country, and then they do one internationally. And the 2 places were Provo, Utah, I believe, Provo, Utah, because, that place is heavily Mormon. And the other place was the Rhino Horn of Africa, or the Horn of Horn of Africa, Rhino Horn of Africa, the northeast top of Africa. And I went completely blank on the country. I would have to look. I know what it is because it's one that we talk. It's not. It's a country that's known, but they showed us videos every day, and showed us videos of the country, Ethiopia. My goodness, it's in the Rhino's Horn, Ethiopia. I knew it. But they would show us videos and show us reasonings, and they talked about in Ethiopia there are Christians, but they're not exactly educated themselves. And so this was related to one of the stories was when Jesus was tempted, and how um, he Satan tried to tempt Jesus, and then Jesus would use scripture, but then Satan would bring scripture into it himself, but then he would make it mean what he wanted it to mean. He would twist it. And it's not necessarily that those people are directly trying to do it that way. It's just that they have not exactly been taught themselves. And so Islam and all kinds of other religions are prominent in these parts. And so this was to raise money to be able to not only help children there be able to go to school, but at the school they're able to get a better understanding and learn more about Jesus and what it is, what it means, how to be a Christian. And so that was really nice. And for our adult Bible study one day, they had on this beautiful new deck that they built at camp, they had different stations set up, and they gave us books to go along with our stations. And one station was, one of the things that they really love to do there is drink coffee. And it's kind of weird because they drink coffee in what we would think of as a tea set, but they had a tea set up at one station, and then they had Hebrew Bibles set up in another, and then they had like an Islam set up. So they had like the Quran and the rug and everything, and then they had beads in another one, and then they had a table set up for things about missions and how missions work, and what the needs are, how to do, those kinds of things. And that was one of my favorite parts, actually, was seeing that and reading it and learning about it. And I loved that. What else did I love? Oh yeah, for I Can't Wait, one of the videos, I showed you a few videos, like I said, in the morning. And one of them was an ad for rentaraccoon.com. And if you don't know me, I love a raccoon. So I wish 110% that was a legit site. But one day we were going to lunch or dinner, and these kids had like just raccoons on them. And I was like, why do these kids have, because kids have fads now that adults know absolutely nothing about, especially if they don't have kids. And I was thinking, and I was like, why would they have just a random raccoon? And then I was like, oh, rentaraccoon.com. That's the thing for this week. There was that, and then there was another video, and the mascot for Centrikid now is a peach, and he's really kind of crazy and obnoxious, and but kids love that, and so they thrive over Peach. And Peach was bothering this one guy. He was a Sasquatch hunter. He was trying to find Sasquatch, and everywhere he went he couldn't do it, or like Peach was foiling his setup or his plan. But then Peach would find him right at the end. But the guy had binoculars, and they were called like Sasquatch finders or seers or some or another, I don't know. And Peach was like, oh, I need some of those. So he goes to the store, and he's trying to get some, but he doesn't have any money. And so he's like thinking of a get rich quick scheme, and he starts trying to sell this man everything at the store for like $5. Can of beans, $5. Binoculars, $5. Inflatable boat, $5. And then he said, watercolor picture of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, priceless. And I was like, okay, I can agree with that. That was amazing. But I digress. Anyways, but camp this year I really enjoyed the messages and the activities and the kids being excited and retaining it, all of the information that they gathered. It was wonderful. And to be able to know that they have that and they can go out and teach others or be excited about what they learned and share that with others, that's a really, a really good thought and feeling. A lot of them would go back right now if we asked them if they wanted to. They would go back right now. One of the stipulations that one of the kids told us was that he could live there. All he needed was his bed and his parents, and then he could live there and he'd be fine. And I was like, sounds reasonable. Sounds reasonable. And he was like, and internet. Because, like I said, middle of nowhere, Mississippi. I said, well, they had Wi-Fi. We just didn't have the password. And he was like, well, we should have got it. And I was like, well, we didn't because we were too busy doing camp things. So, anyways, I hope I didn't bore you too much. I hope I didn't miss anything. But then again, we can always catch up later, right? So, I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day.